Hi folks, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande. The next question is, why are we using LaunchedEffect, basically SideEffect, when to use SideEffect? Okay, broadly speaking, when you are working with Composables, that is Jetpack Compose in Android, you will come across these things: launched effect, disposable effect, and the third one is basically normal side effect. Even before answering what is a side effect, let's go back to what is a composable and how data is basically rendered in the composable. If you are already aware, composable has a state and that state has got data. It is the custodian of the data, and if the state changes, the updated data should reflect in the UI. That is the whole idea behind how the composable works. Okay, and if you want to modify the data, you have to change the state. Now changing the state basically means it is a side effect. When the state changes, when you are modifying the data of the state, you are basically doing a side effect. The side effect of that state change is basically the updated UI. Now sometimes this side effect might be a time consuming operation. In that case, ideally speaking, you don't want to write time consuming operation in a composable because it runs on the UI thread, and the notorious application not responding error. So you want to keep your composable as lightweight as possible. But at the end of the day, the state still resides in the composable. So regardless of how much time your state takes to update itself, it should not cause the application not responding error and should work seamlessly and should work in such a way that the composable doesn't get rendered again and again, causing a performance issue. Now to do that, there are these three things. That is launched effect. As the name indicates, launched effect is typically used to write any logic which you want to execute just around the time when the composable is getting rendered, such that you can write that logic in a coroutine scope. For example, let's assume that you have an API and you are basically waiting the API response to come, and once it is available, then you want to render. So waiting on the composable for API response to come is going to be a little bit cumbersome because you never know how much time the API is going to take to give you the data. In that case, you use LaunchedEffect to put that logic so that it runs without blocking the UI. That is the LaunchedEffect. The other one is disposable effect. As the name indicates, you want to basically write any logic which is releasing of the resources when the composable is getting unrendered or getting closed. So that is the logic you want to write in the disposable effect. And once again, sometimes these operations could be taking more time, so you want to do it away from the typical UI thread. So that is where you can run everything or anything in the disposable effect in the another coroutine scope. And other than these two, there is a side effect. A side effect is not related to either launch or dispose. You might be simply interested in, say, for example, logging some information or logging some kind of analytics using the analytics library that you might be using. It could be Adobe or it could be Firebase. Such kind of things which you want to do as a part of the side effect. You basically want to track the user behavior information. So those kind of things you can do it in the side effect. So those are the three things typically you use with the launched effect, side effect, and disposable effect. I hope I have been able to answer your question. I'm planning to actually do this video as a part of the composable series. You will actually visit these things in one of the upcoming videos, so stay tuned. I remember there was another question where you had asked me about my plans about making videos for the Compose multi-platform. No, I have no plans of making multi-platform Kotlin Compose tutorial videos as of now. The next question is, why do we use by keyword? Explain. Let's try to understand what does this by mean even before we try to understand remember and mutable state, all those things. By default, any object or any variable has a setter and getter. That is where when you assign any variable with something internally, it is basically using setters and getters by default, which are available. But sometimes you don't want to use the setter and getter. You want a particular variable to be initialized by something else. Probably you have used some function. Okay, that function is returning a value and you want to use that function to initialize something. To do that, we basically use by. By, in a way, you can read it as provided by. When you say val a is equal to something, you are using setter and getter. But instead of that, you write val a by some function. You are basically saying that initialize a whose value is provided by whatever the function that you are going to put after by. That is what by basically means. Let's apply the same logic when you work with mutable state. So how do you initialize a mutable state? You write something like val counter or a variable counter by remember mutable state of. So what you are basically saying is that this counter should be initialized by this remember mutable state of function, and that is why you use by. And of course, when you use by, what happens is instead of using say counter dot value, you can directly use counter plus plus. I have actually showcased this in the one of the videos that I was doing as a part of the Jetpack Compose state management. I'm going to provide you the link to that particular video. I suggest you go through that particular video. You will understand why I use by and what is the advantage of using a by while working with remember and mutable state. And then there is also another question where you are asking what is the difference between mutable state and mutable state of. No difference, no major difference. Mutable state of basically returns a mutable state. Mutable state is a interface which is I think subclass of or sub interface of a state. So you cannot directly initialize a mutable state. You use mutable state of and then you pass the parameter mutable state of 0, mutable state of say true or false, depending upon the kind of data that you want to initialize it with. And you always use it with remember because if you use remember, you are basically allowing it to be cached across multiple state changes. That is the whole reason why you use remember and mutable state of. And I have explained this also in one of the tutorial video when I was doing Jetpack Compose introductory parts of the videos. So I suggest you go through that as well. The next question is, sir, I have set a periodic time of 50 minutes, but work manager calls sometimes in 3 minutes or 9 minutes, etc. My question is why my work manager not in consistent with the time. Why is it not called every 15 minutes? See, this is a kind of a known issue with the work manager or a periodic work manager. Okay, there are various variables or conditions which affect whether whatever the time that you have set, whether it will be honored or not. Whether the phone is charging, whether it has dozed off, whether it has got and restarted. A lot of things are there. And not only that, sometimes on certain devices, there is not a consistent behavior, especially if it is non standard Google devices, Pixel or Nexus devices. Even in some Nexus and Pixel devices, this issue has been observed, and this issue has been actually logged in the official Google tracker. But unfortunately, there has been no satisfactory response from the Google or Android about it. So I would say that whenever you are putting this kind of periodicity to your work manager, think of it like it is a request to the OS to execute something after certain minutes, but not in a very strict sense. The system will try to honor it to the maximum extent, but sometimes you cannot expect it. So don't try to do something very strictly expecting that it will execute after 15 minutes. Okay, because on certain devices and in certain OEMs, it is not strictly adhered to. That is what my suggestion would be. Now the question is, hello sir, I read an answer of yours from Quora where you switched from teaching in RV to being a developer. I just graduated this year, but my job offer has been delayed due to recession in tech industry despite me performing really well in my internship and interviews. I feel that tech industry is unpredictable and is risky career now, especially with all AI advancements that has been. What is your take on it? See, AI advance has definitely has had a major impact in the IT industry, and a lot of roles have got affected by it. If you want to use that as the main reason to change your career choice, then just think over it, because AI is going to stay here and it is only going to grow further in the coming years. What you may think that it will not affect right now, but it will have an impact in a couple of years. You may think that teaching is not getting impacted by AI, but in reality, it is already getting impacted by AI. Probably it might not be very apparent right now, but in pretty near future, we will start seeing the impact of that. So thinking that teaching is not going to get affected by AI would be a wrong assumption. Okay. Of course, AI is not going to replace the teachers, but people are going to rely on AI to learn things. Okay. So AI is going to be there. It is not going to go away, but you have to decide whether do you want to keep that as one of the demotivating factor or the factor to decide on your career options. I have been thinking of just getting into teaching and professor roles instead here in Bangalore itself, since I feel that is a way more safer career option. I have done teaching now almost 15 years back. I have not done professional teaching in an engineering college here in Bangalore. I am pretty sure the landscape has changed, the times have changed, and the expectation of the students also has changed. Increasingly, I feel that students are not bound by what is taught in the classroom. If you want to really excel, they are not dependent on the professors. And professors also have realized this. Okay, until and unless professor is something really very good, and his teaching is really good, and he's talking something about very niche. Okay, but more often than not, most of the subjects that gets taught in the engineering are getting covered in, say, either Udemy, Upgrade, most of these kind of platforms, and people are actually paying and going there to learn these things. So in such scenario where more and more work is getting offloaded from the traditional brick and mortar engineering colleges, it would be wrong to assume that the teaching career is most safe. So forget about that part. The most important part is, do you want to do teaching because you like teaching, or you don't have any other option and that is the reason why you are choosing this particular profession? Choosing any particular profession for right reasons is very very important, because otherwise what will happen is you will end up hating your career choice and whatever things that will happen around it. If you really like teaching and you want to do it, do it. There is nothing wrong with it, but don't do it for the wrong reasons. Probably you would be not honest with yourself, and you would be doing a disservice to the students as well. So that's what I feel. But even then also, if you want to get into teaching nowadays, just be is not sufficient in any engineering college. Most of the people are expecting post graduation. Professors need to be at least postgraduate, at least 10-15 years. That was the situation, but nowadays I think most likely they are expecting to be at least PhD. If you have already completed MTech or ME, that is post graduation, doing just a PhD, which is another 4 or 5 years of investment, and if you really want to take up this particular profession, then it's a good investment. So right now, with the kind of expectation the educational institutions have for the professor grade, you need to have at least PhD. They won't say they won't take you, but the pay grade will not be that much higher. At least that's what I have observed. So think about it. I don't want to discourage you, but I can only say that if you really want to do teaching, take a full on interest in it and do it for the right reasons. Otherwise, don't do it. And IT, to say that it is unpredictable, yes, it is unpredictable. But once again, I would say nothing is predictable. Life itself is unpredictable. I would say we have to upgrade ourselves and keep ourselves relevant in these current times. Somewhere I had read a statement saying illiterates of the 21st century will not be those who can't read or write. It will be those who can't learn, relearn, and unlearn. So that's how it is. That's the reality of the times. So yeah, I think I am done with most of the questions that were asked. I hope you liked this particular session. It has been quite some time that I had not done this particular kind of video. Hopefully, you will like this video or this kind of content, and going forward, we will do it more frequently. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.